Right, it's almost 20 past, so hopefully everyone online is ready. Let's get started. Okay, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands we are meeting on today. Newcastle is recognised as the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi peoples. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging of our region and of Australia, and extend those respects to any Aboriginal peoples here with us today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Joe James, and I'm the CEO of the Hunter Joint Organisation, and I will be your MC for this morning. Thank you for joining us today, both in person and online. I understand we've got quite a few people online as well, and we've got a great turn up in the room. We are here in the fabulous Q building, which has been built on circular design principles. It is the first building in New South Wales to achieve a 6-star Green Star design and as-built certified rating. From the design to the construction, the building has considered sustainability at all stages, including the windows here, which have been glazed, as I understand, with an electrochromic smart glass system, which automatically changes its tint to respond to heat and glare. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Hunter Joint Organisation, we are a collaborative and leadership body that brings together the 10 councils in the region to provide a united and local voice for our communities. We are led by our 10 mayors in the region. And as the hub for local intergovernmental collaboration, our statutory mandate includes identifying key regional strategic priorities, advocating for these priorities, and building collaborations around those priorities with other levels of government, industry, and community. I'd also like to acknowledge our partners for this event, HunterNet, who will be hosting a workshop after this session for their bin trim manufacturing pilot program, and Go Circular. Thank you to both for their assistance in putting this morning together. Today, we'll have an opportunity to hear from industry and local circular economy experts about circular economy projects and initiatives happening throughout the region. We are launching the Hunter JO's Hunter and Central Coast Circular Economy Roadmap, which has been co-developed with key regional stakeholders. We'll start with opening remarks from Mayor Kay Fraser, who is the chair of the Hunter JO's Circular Economy Subcommittee, on the opportunities of the circular economy in the Hunter region. Following that, Tim Askew, the Hunter JO's Regional Policy and Programs Manager, will introduce the Hunter and Central Coast Circular Economy Roadmap. This will be followed by 3 case studies to demonstrate circular economy in action in our region, including the Circular Economy Living Lab, Mollycop, and Resourceful Living. We will finish the session off with a panel discussion. We have a packed agenda, so make a note of any burning questions for our speakers as we move through the session. We have facilitators online, so for anyone joining us online, please use the chat function to enter your questions for panellists. We all know that circular economy is a complex thing, and it's going to require a lot of leadership to get it up and running as effective as it can be. And leadership is certainly something that our first speaker has demonstrated in leading our Circular Economy Subcommittee from its initiation. So I'd like to introduce and welcome to the lectern our first speaker, Mayor Kay Fraser. Welcome, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Joe, and good morning, everyone. At least the rain stopped, which is really quite nice. Today is going to be a pretty exciting morning, talking about everything circular economy. So I'll just do a little few words about what we're doing out in Lake Mac and why it's so important. Transitioning to a circular economy in Australia is not just a rose-tinted option. For me, it's an imperative. Traditional linear economies are simply unsustainable in today's world. There is no way we can continue at our current rate of growth if we don't design out waste and pollution, if we don't keep products and materials in use as their highest reasonable and possible value, and if we don't regenerate natural systems. Local government is critical to adopting and promoting this transition. No other level of government or organisation has such close connections to the community. We're at the coalface, uniquely capable of educating and engaging an enormous number of people. And working together at a regional level, we have a very real opportunity right now to make the Hunter Australia's leading regional circular economy. Our roadmap plots a path to reach this lofty goal through realistic, pragmatic measures. It makes collaboration central to our success, drawing on the expertise and enthusiasm for sustainable practices embedded across our region. We must be the driving force to harness all levels of government, tertiary institutions like the University of Newcastle and Avondale University, business associations and the wider community. Leadership and action at local government level will set the examples that others can follow. It's pleasing to see we are already taking significant steps in this regard. Lake Macquarie was the first local government area in Australia to introduce a circular economy framework and policy. Hunter JO is collaborating with partners across Australia globally to implement Australia's first regional city scheme, identifying regional strength and assets to attract and grow our circular economy in our region. We're forging ahead with the Circular Economy Living Lab, although I know David Hughes, our director, will be talking about that later on, so I won't steal his thunder. We're also undertaking a pioneering circular procurement project. This will identify opportunities to use public procurement to advance circular economy opportunities in our region, such as the use of recycled materials in capital works and the construction sector. Our roadmap demonstrates that transitioning to a circular economy is not an imposition, it's an opportunity. Over the next 20 years, the circular model is expected to deliver, and these are staggering figures, $1.86 trillion nationally in direct benefits, and will save emissions equivalent to 165 million tonnes of carbon dioxide. By 2048, it will sustain 17,000 jobs in the food, transport and bulk environment sector. So it's imperative we're on the front foot. So the time is now to capitalise on these opportunities. This roadmap will maintain the momentum to help our environment grow, our region, and make our communities better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. Particularly thank you for your leadership and support for the circular economy initiatives through the region from the very outset of the JO's venture into this space. It is a great opportunity for the region to be able to collaborate amongst the 10 member councils and the wider community to have a place-based approach to shifting to a circular economy. Next up, we have Tim Askew to introduce the roadmap. Welcome, Tim.
Good morning, everybody. What a nice morning. Keen to get this launched. It's been coming for a little while, and I'm really happy to see everyone here this morning. A lot of faces here helped build this, so it's great to see you. And I'm sure those people online are also very, very excited to be here. But you don't get to try the yummy food, so bad luck. Normally we start with what is the circular economy, but I think this is a very wise audience, and I'm sure a very wise audience online as well. And you guys know a fair bit about the circular economy already. But it's, as you guys know, there's three key elements to it. But what I want to do this morning is something slightly different, and just trying to imagine it into the future and look at the circular economy in that context. So, you know, if we were to be eliminating waste and designing out waste, we'll be seeing some amazing circular business models into the future. And we've got two presentations today that are starting to demonstrate that. And you'll see Resource for Living's Jess Hodge speak to an interesting circular business model. And we need an innovation culture as well. That's what we'll see in the future. We'll see a lot more businesses thinking about designing out waste. And of course, keeping materials in use and at their highest and best use is critical as well. And we'll see I think, some advanced manufacturing happening, and we've got Brett Allen from Molycop talking about that today as well. He and his company are already down that pathway, and I think in the future we'll see a lot more of that. The other exciting thing is that I reckon there'll be developers wandering around looking at buildings differently in the future going, oh, that looks like a juicy piece of resources sitting on that site, not just a blank piece of land with a building on it. So lots of things to look forward to. Regenerative agriculture is going to be critical as well. And really looking forward to paddock to plate to become completely normal. And maybe kids in the future go, I've never heard of a Sydney rock oyster unless they go to Sydney and they just have Port Stephens oysters here. So that's the kind of vision we want to try and create with this roadmap to get us there. But I'm going to take you back now on a very, very quick journey of 3 years. And the first 18 months of our journey for the roadmap was one of stumbling around a little bit, learning, trying to work out what this circular economy thing is, driven by the China sword crisis. And we had some great leadership from Mayor Fraser and a few other mayors in our region, and great backing from the HJO board to really explore this and to drive our exploration forward in the circular economy. We did develop some foundational projects with some great partners like Jonathan Wood at Sustainability Advantage, and experimented around with those and got some good baseline information which we were able to launch from. And the engagement piece was critical as well. We started engaging with the region a lot more, and we started to find those champions out there who could help us on our circular economy journey. That got us to the second phase where we started to get quite more focused around what we needed to do. We understood it a little bit more, and we established a couple of key groups, the Circular Economy Facilitators Group, which is a bunch of champions that give up their time for free to try and drive our circular economy forward. And they were critical in getting the roadmap done. They really, there's some great people from the Central Coast. I think Annie's here today. Hopefully Darren's online. We had people from state, federal government. We had university there. And we had great consultancies as well, like Go Circular, who's helping us today. So heaps of people. I haven't mentioned everybody, but great bunch of people that helped get this roadmap off the ground. And then we can look into the future as well, again, to get to that vision we're trying to create for our circular economy. And that's really about some key things of growing that ecosystem we've started to develop in the circular economy, doing that data coordination, getting that data baseline happening for the region so everyone has access to good data. And then starting to do some scenario planning, which I think is something that government can initially help with, and then business can just get on with. So that's making sure that we help develop circular pathways for materials in our region. And of course, some strategic work that the councils and other people in our facilitators group can help with. And that will get us the momentum and investment we need. So to the roadmap, this was exciting to put this together. And the reason why we put it together is that we realized that we had some great projects, but we didn't really have a vision that we were aiming for. And we'll see that in a minute. And we wanted to also make sure we keep the collaboration happening. And we saw this as a good document to do that. We also wanted to make sure we started to think strategically rather than just experimenting around with some foundational projects and getting some runs on the board. We also wanted to think and plan our things out a little bit more. And we wanted to make sure we were avoiding duplication and aligning well. And so I commend the roadmap to you, and get online, have a look at it, go into a bit of detail. And I'm going to flick through some of the key features for you right now. So we engaged some amazing consultants, Edge Environment, and I think Jess is here today, and they helped us think through the guiding principles that we needed to put this together, and also pull out the opportunities and challenges that we would have in our circular economy journey. And that helped set us up for some amazing workshops that we had. We had over, I think, nearly 50 people from around the region in between COVID waves nutting it out and trying to work out what our vision would be for the region. And we settled on Australia's leading regional circular economy, which is quite ambitious, but you've got to go for it. You know, you've got to get it out there. And I'll let you read all the rest of it at your leisure. We also, at that workshop, really narrowed down on some key focus areas for the region. So that's really around building that circular economy knowledge hub, really helping and trying to work out how we could help business help themselves and advancing industry. And driving circular markets was a key focus area, we thought, for the circular economy moving forward. And it's something that local government can play a part and other government can play a part, because we buy a lot of stuff. And if we flipped our procurement lens to more circular products, then that can help create a demand pull in the market. So everyone can help to bring this about, and the local government really is committed to this, which is fantastic. We also tried to divvy up the roles and responsibilities around the region, and on the left-hand side, it's really on my left-hand side, it's got the roles and responsibilities of local government, and on the right-hand side, what the rest of the ecosystem responsibilities are. So we try to understand where we fit into the circular economy journey and roadmap. And then the roadmap changes. It's basically fairly strategic at the front end. And then there's a back end, which is all about the 12-month, 18-month roadmap. It's about what's happening now. It's about what's happening in the near future. And so it's a collation of all the projects happening around the region in circular economy. It's not exhaustive, but it's what we could pull together with the resources we have. And I'm sure there's plenty more. And you'll see ways to engage in the future and add more projects in there if you so choose. So we've sort of split it up between quite simply having the initiative and then who the lead is on that project and a short description of that project. So you'll see pages of these. So there's been a lot of stuff that's happened or a lot of stuff happening in the circular economy, which is very exciting. And then that's all consolidated into an implementation program, which is basically just all the projects that we have happening in the region around over the next 18 months or so, allocated to the focus areas that we spoke about previously. And then the key leads of those projects are sort of mapped out in a colourful way across the timeline. And this is something that we are going to keep as a living document. So I'll explain that in a second. We also have what we affectionately call the bench, which is a couple of projects that we'd like to get off the ground, but we don't have the resources for, or actually some of those on the bench are actually starting to kick off now because someone has stepped up and provided some resources for them. So we wanted to keep an ideas bench as well. So that's the nub of it. We've also got some success measures that we wanted to put into the roadmap. Now, this is notoriously difficult in the circular economy, so we've started off really simply, and we've got 6 key success measures. But I just wanted to also emphasize a really good line that's being captured here is that, and it's focused on success measures, but it's actually really goes to the heart of the circular economy as well, which is the linear economy has had hundreds of years to develop, and the hundreds of years to develop their measures of success. The circular economy is very new, and we need to try and ramp it up fairly quickly with our planet and keep dollars in everyone's pockets and create some value and jobs. So just keep that in mind. This is new, and we're trying to accelerate, and you can all play a part. And just finishing up on, as I said, we want to make this a living document, and with the resources we've got, we're really trying to keep it useful and make sure people are constantly engaged with this process as best we can. So what we've done is we've got an annual roadmap update, which we haven't done one yet, but it'll be due fairly soon, which is, might sound strange since we're launching it, but this has been on the go for about 12 months. So it's due for a little refresh. We also have a quarterly review process that we've been experimenting with the facilitators group, and that has a way that everyone can add projects to this roadmap, which will be on our website in a few weeks' time. And there's also a project prioritization process that we're experimenting with and testing at the moment. And we're also monitoring and evaluating metrics. So we're trying to improve that as well. And the facilitators group has been central to make all of that happen. So I really thank them for a massive free effort, which I love free. We also have ways that we want to keep everyone else engaged as well. And we haven't gone into a lot of detail on this. We haven't really kicked this off in a lot of detail at the moment, but we're working towards it. But we've really got some great groups out there. And we've got a fantastic subcommittee that sits below the Hunter JO board. And that helps drive the local government elements forward as well. And for everyone else, there'll be more events coming. That's a good way to engage. The huntercircular.com.au website is up and running, and that'll be a way that you guys can engage. And I'll tell a little bit more at the end on how you do that. And a newsletter will be coming out soon, and that's another way where you guys can keep up to date about what's happening around the circular economy. So I commend the document to you, and hand over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. That is a fantastic vision, and I'm just want to say while I can, I need to click. I'll leave that to someone more capable than myself. Just want to say very proud of the work that you and the team, Eloise and others have put in. It's been a significant labour of love over a long period of time. It really is demonstrating the capability of the region to come together. Just quickly reflecting, I think consumers of products and services everywhere are really demanding that this is the way we go. So there is massive economic opportunity here, but it does require leadership of everyone in the room and everyone online. And a lot of that leadership is around leading by example in recognising why collaboration is important. There are very few things within this vision that can be achieved unilaterally by one person acting alone. And so that sense of, okay, how do we get to this this new place? I love the fact that you've built the roadmap around trying to bring this to life, bringing it, creating a real ecosystem around it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, David Hughes, who's the Director of Built and Natural Assets from Lake Macquarie City Council, to discuss their very exciting Circular Economy Living Lab. Welcome, David.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Joe. Madam Mayor, Mayors online, welcome. This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about the journey at Lake Macquarie with our Living Lab, what we've been doing in the circular economy, and some of the lessons that we've learned and what our Circular Economy Living Lab is all about. We'll touch on some of the opportunities of the circular economy. And some of those have already been touched on this morning, but the circular economy is all about a global shift from the linear take, make, waste process to where we have a circular, highest and best use for the materials and the energies that we use. The Lower Hunter and Newcastle Lake Macquarie has had over 100 years, 150 years of the singular linear processes that we're all used to. I'm an engineer, the engineers that are in the room, the engineers that are online, other people involved in technical roles and in the business roles around our economies have seen that take, make, waste. And the take, make, waste, we're all seeing the transition away from it today, particularly in power generation, particularly in mining, particularly in steel. In my career, I worked at Newcastle Steelworks, I worked in mining, but now I am starting to work on what's the circular economy and how we turn it around. Local governments and all levels of governments can play a big role in that. And how we transition that's important because none of us can do it on our own. So there are three key principles. It's designing out waste and pollution, it's keeping products and materials in use, and it's regenerating natural systems. And all of those have to integrate together to make this possible. It means that the business paradigms that we've worked within for the last century, the way we measure businesses has to change if we're going to make this work. So the circular opportunity for businesses is a pretty big one. I'm not going to read through everything on that slide, but there are some significant numbers up there from the studies that show what the opportunities are if we can make the circular economy, or we have to make the circular economy work. It's really how fast we can get there. So some of the recent reports released show that the GDP impact on Australia could be as high as $23 billion by 2025. And that's in the transport, food and built environment. And all of us are involved in transports, food and built environments. KPMG believe there's up to an additional 17,000 jobs involved in what could come from the circular economy. If you think of some of the roles that have to come into place to run a circular economy that we don't have today, or we're only just starting to see today, as simple as reverse logistics, as simple as repair and recycle. For a generation or so, we haven't had those roles in businesses because we were a one use and take it to landfill. It's filled our landfill, fills up. Our landfills are full of resources that we can go back and get at some point in time. So the opportunities and the benefits are there. The IGCC, which is the Investor Group on Climate Change, it sounds a bit like a cricket club, but the IGCC, a recent report shows that they believe that less than 9% of our global resources are managed within circular principles. So we have a massive upside if we can tap into it, and the faster we can do it, the better we're going to be. So circularity and jobs. Some other studies that are out there if people want to look into them. The circle economy, the job monitor framework, believes there are 3 different styles of jobs. What we're on the cusp of is a change in the way that people work, a change in the way we operate our businesses, a change in the skills that we need in our workforces. The core jobs are the ones that ensure the closure of raw material cycles, including in repair, renewable energy, waste and resource management. They are the ones that are going to work in the core part of the circular economy. Probably the ones that are most important today for that are the enabling jobs, the jobs that are going to make that happen. The creative engineers, the creative architects, the creative system thinkers that are actually going to change the paradigms and the business models that we work in today. The people who will design products so that we can reuse them time and time and time again or pull them apart. Now, businesses are starting to transition. Just out of curiosity, how many people in here have used IKEA materials or IKEA stuff? IKEA in Europe are now offering a lease program where you can lease IKEA materials and take it back again. They will recycle it, reuse it, because they know they've already seen, and Europe's a long way advanced compared to what we are in Australia at the moment, is that the business model of a one-shot use just doesn't work for them. So we're starting to see it more and more. So these enabling jobs are the ones that will build and upscale the circular economy. So I've got 3 children. 2 of them are already going through or finished university. 1 hasn't started, but I know over her lifetime, or all the children's lifetime, they will be studying and learning new skills that we haven't even thought of yet, but they will come out of this shift in the economy that we're talking about. The indirect jobs are the ones that will uphold the circular economy, but are still very important. The logistics ones, for example, the ones that for people to make it happen. So circularity and business. A recent study in Australia, our labour markets are deeply rooted in the linear make waste economy. We'll get that out. A recent study of business leaders in Australia showed some interesting stats, and this report was only released in 2020. 88% of business leaders in Australia believe that the circular economy will be important. There's varying knowledge of what the circular economy really is, although many respondents thought that they were knowledgeable, but many struggled to really define what they believe the circular economy was. The main barrier identified as financial issues to getting the circular economy to work. Excuse me. And the business decision makers that were interviewed unanimously agreed that Australia has barely begun to embrace the circular economy journey. So the Circular Economy Living Lab, a little bit about the journey at Lake Macquarie. We have been embracing circular principles for some time, and we have been using circular principles in our capital programs and in our assets. Excuse me. And to put into context, Lake Macquarie City Council, can I just grab it? Lake Macquarie City Council, an LGA of about 210,000 residents. Our asset base is about $4 billion. So our operations and maintenance of that asset base, we try to spend about $100 million a year. We're struggling at the moment to keep it under about 130. So that investment that we make every year has the opportunity to pull through circular principles. Many people in here who lives in Lake Macquarie. Okay, so in Lake Mac, just as an example, the yellow bin service that gets picked up every fortnight with all your beer bottles and wine bottles in it, we produce about 5,500 tonnes of glass a year through that. So we've been working with other partners of how we turn that glass into glass sand and how we use that glass sand in our non-structural concrete. But the journey was quite painful because what we learned is that we could not do it on our own and our partners could not do it on our own. We had to work with people like the EPA to get different classifications on the waste so that we could reuse it. That process took a long time. What that led us to is the importance of having a living lab where we can experiment and work together and innovate and accelerate so that we can deal with all the processes at one time. So we've formed, founded by Lake Macquarie City Council, Dantia and Newcastle University. We now have a not-for-profit organisation formed that operates under Dantia, which we call the Circular Economy Living Lab. And it's the first living lab registered in Australia that's primarily focused on circular economy. So it's about collaborating with industries, universities, local communities to bring those ideas to life. Yesterday's idea is tomorrow's business as usual, but the bit of today, the work that we have to get through is quite difficult and can take us on a number of journeys. So the programs are all about strategic collaborative initiatives and how we can reuse and reutilise materials, look at the de-risk of trialling materials. Sometimes there are unintended consequences and we need to know what they are as we're trialling them. As engineers, as an engineer, we're trained to be conservative, but we have to push those barriers at times, not gamble, but be innovative and be agile in what we do. A few different things that we are trialling. One of the biggest legacies of the power generation in the Hunter and Lake Macquarie regions is all of the fly ash that's sitting in fly ash dams. Some people see that as a problem, others see that as a great opportunity. So we're working on how we can add more fly ash into our roads program. How can we build more road base using higher and higher proportions of fly ash? Now, one of the issues that as a local government that we have to work with in trying to understand that is that we have a technical branch in Transport for New South Wales that sets the limits of the materials that are used in roads. New South Wales is more conservative than other states. The ratios of ash that we can use in roads in New South Wales is lower than what we can use in other states. So that's the first area when we're working to collaborative together with all the different elements that you have to make these things come together. But we're currently designing up a road where we'll probably do it in 100-metre sections where we will have different elements or different ratios of fly ash in the road and have an inspection and test program over a number of years so that we can see how that road performs. We don't believe we'd get catastrophic failures, but the wearing ratios could be different. Leading edge ideas can be tried, tested, validated and scaled, and we can slingshot them into commercial use. So if you're interested in the Living Lab, if you've got ideas that you want to put up that we can use our capital works program and our asset base to pull through, we'd love to hear from you. Key one is to reach out either to myself at Lake Macquarie or into Dantia. As I said, the program is managed out of Dantia. It's a separate organisation that's set up and we're collaborating also with Newcastle Uni. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Tremendously exciting to have that initiative in the region. Between the roadmap and the Living Lab, you mentioned making information and expertise accessible as essential. And so the Living Lab is going to be fundamental to that and also critical, I think, to building the innovation culture that we talked about and Tim talked about. Our next speaker is Brett Allen, General Manager from Molycop, who will be discussing how they have integrated circular economy principles into business practice. Welcome, Brett.
In the middle. Can I drive back as well? Hi everyone, how are you going? Good to see a lot of unfamiliar faces in the room. So Brett's my name, Molly Copper's the business. Is anyone unfamiliar with the business name or the business Molly Cop? Got one hand, couple of honest people, fantastic. It just rolls off the tongue, right, Molly Cop? So we're a steel manufacturer here in Newcastle, quite often better known as Comsteel. So I'm not sure if that's a familiar name as well. So we'll rattle off through a presentation here that I'm under strict instructions for under 10 minutes. So I'm going to fire into it. If I run a little bit fast at the start, I'm around to answer any questions at the end as well. So the business, a little bit of bragging up front. The business here in Newcastle is one of 12 facilities that we've got around the world. This is an overview of the facility of those that are familiar with Newcastle itself. The Mater Hospital is just off the right-hand side. This is Maud Street along the very front. We occupy just a little over 25 hectares of land. We've been in operation for over 100 years. So March 1918, I think, was when we started manufacturing steel here in Newcastle. So very proud of our history. And here's a few of the products that we make. Top left, by far the largest by volume, grinding media, steel balls that go into the hard rock mining, so gold and copper. Railway wheels, top right. So has anyone caught a train in Australia in the last 10 years? You've been riding on a wheel that was manufactured here in Newcastle, believe it or not. So 97% of the railway wheels rolling on tracks here in Australia were manufactured here in Newcastle, and it's a fact we're very proud of. Of those that aren't manufactured here in Australia, once they're worn out, they get replaced by those that are made here in Newcastle. A bit of scale indication for the business. So we employ 550 people here directly in Newey, about 40 full-time contractors on site, and then you get that multiplier factor as well. Some argue 3 to 5. So i.e. for every employee that we have directly employed, we feel there's an impact of at least 3 others non-directly here in the local economy. Fun fact, the steel. So I'm looking at the flagpole here at New Parliament House. The flagpole was manufactured at Comsteel or Mollycop here in Newcastle. Fun fact. Tried to put a bid in for the 3rd pole on the Harbour Bridge. We're somewhat unsuccessful, which I heard just last night's been canned. Is that the case? Yeah, no 3rd flagpole. There you go. Yeah, well, we would do it for 9. There you go, Dane. So look, this is getting into the interesting part, all right? So thank you for bearing with me about the brag fest. But we are very proud of our long tenure here in Newcastle, not only Australia. We're very proud of the fact that our facility is an electric arc furnace. So that technology means that 93% of the inputs into our process, making grinding media and railway wheels, comes from recycled product. Hugely proud of that fact. The reality of that technology, though, is we're very energy intensive. So it's a reality that we can't look past, okay? So both when I talk about energy, we talk about electricity that operates the electric arc furnace itself, but also gas, natural gas for all of our reheat furnaces. We in the steel game love heating things up, cooling it down, heating it back up again, cooling it down. You guessed it, heating it back up again, cooling it back down. And then at some stage, delivering it to our customers. So back in 2019, we made a bit of a leap of faith, signed up for a very long-term power purchase agreement that has 2 offtakes for a wind farm in the north and a solar farm in the south. So we buy energy from both that wind and solar farm that is a little over half of our annual consumption. So it's a step in the right direction, and albeit not plugged into the facility, as we all practically know, it's certainly our attempt at investment in renewable energy, not only the technology, but also in, we made sure it was in New South Wales for that regional New South Wales investment, close to our heart. I've touched on the 93% piece. So it's by nature of an electric arc furnace compared to what was here in Newcastle back in the 90s, which I was part of myself, Integrated Steelworks. We have the benefit of not only recycled materials as an input, but our carbon footprint is a little under half of what a traditional steelmaking facility has. Now, circular economy piece, recycling. So a few facts around the volume of steel that we pull back. So I'll touch on different types of steel that we pull out of materials. One behind me, you can see being cars. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what way you look at it, less and less manufacturing means less and less byproducts from that manufacturing. So when BHP Steelworks 99 and prior was operating here in Newcastle, an absolute abundance of scrap just as byproducts from the process. Nowadays, we find ourselves processing more things like cars, washing machines, dishwashers and such, because that's the type of scrap that's available, and some other unique ones. From a circular economy piece, it's only been the last handful of years that that grinding media that I talk about, the railway wheels, also anode pins for the aluminium industry on the east coast of Australia here. More and more, we deliver that product to the customer, they use it, and in a gold mining application, the ball wears from, let's call it 100 mil to 60 mil and gets spat out of that process. We now take back that 60 mil product. So the truck that drives out with the new 100 mil, we pick up a load of 60 mil worn product, bring it back to the plant and throw it back into the furnace. So we're very much more engaging with our customers to be able to pull back that, I won't say reject, but that worn product out of their process. Cars consume circa 200,000 on an annualized basis. Car tyres. So I'll touch a little bit, or I won't touch on much because I know it's time sensitive. A business that we bought that is in the space of processing materials, Mollycop 360, but we had to look for weird and wonderful ways of pulling scrap back into the process. So I touched on that point about heavy industry winding back. We're now processing tyres to be able to extract the steel out of those tyres. And just remind me about the rubber a little bit later, please. Not only tyres, but mattresses. Wow, most of us use them, right? So at the end of life, they've got valuable steel within those mattresses. So we also process those, pull the steel out, and put it back through the process to make very reliable railway wheels, everybody, okay? Don't be put off by car tyre steel and mattress steel being part of those wheels. Some collaboration, so very much, we've got to add University of Newcastle to the list these days as well, as we've just entered into a collaboration with that business. I'm going to flick through these slides because again, I think I've spoken on most of it. The Mollycop 360 business, this is just again, really highlighting, we've now got our own processing capability for that ability to be able to pull steel out of some waste or byproducts. Now, the steel is what it is all about for us. So we melt it to make other products, but we have to add things. So to me, the important point of this discussion is I love to, fly the banner about how good we are about the 93% recycled products. Our business is very focused on that last 7%. That's what it's all about for us. What initiatives can we take to make that 7, 6, 5, 4, and so on? And we really look at that collaboration with the universities and other businesses is all about saying, well, what can we do differently? Aluminium is used in our process, and there's no name here for the particular pod or coffee manufacturer, but we're working hand in hand with a business around pulling the aluminium from these pods back into our process because we add aluminium as part of the process, but also the coffee beans themselves we're using in some weird and wonderful ways. Polymer injection technology. How am I going for time? Yeah, thumbs up. Polymer injection technology is something we're really proud of. Veena Sajwala, for those that don't know, New South Wales Person of the Year, runner-up, we'll call her, for Australian of the Year. A very intelligent woman, heads up a department in the University of New South Wales. We employ this polymer injection technology here in Newcastle to substitute. So again, that 7% of stuff that we bang in, part of that 7% is coke. So coal is mined from the earth. It is cooked for a period of time and it is turned into coke. We put that coke into our process. Polymer injection technology is all about substituting upwards of 40% of that coke with crumbed rubber from car tires. So again, it hinges back into the why do we have a business that now processes those. We not only pull the steel out, but we also have the capacity to be able to use the rubber in our process. Now, we use two forms of carbon. Don't ask me to get too technical, please. I'm no metallurgist. I'll try and answer any questions in this space. But we use inject coke and charge carbon. Inject means it goes on top in what we call a slag layer. Charged carbon means it goes in the melt. So it's actually carbon that we're trying to get into the steel. This is all about that inject coke on top. So it's really about forming a blanket on top. Again, we want to make the most use of the energy that we put into the facility. Not only does it, that slag layer does some technical stuff as far as pulling impurities out of the steel, it's basically a blanket as well on top. So it's about heat retention. The more heat retention we get, the less energy that we need to put in. A very effective, so the rubber, Vena and this polymer injection technology is all about not only using the rubber in place of coke, but making it a more effective slag layer. So it actually makes it a more efficient part of the process. The next two slides are all about, so I talked about the stuff on top. Now we're talking about the carbon that's actually put in the steel. So we're doing some weird and wonderful things with different types of products or waste materials that are actually being made into these blocks that we can see on the right-hand side that's going in as charge carbon as well into the process. So this slide here talks about ink, jet, printer cartridge ink. So, you know, the printer says, change it out and you pull it out. And I don't know about you, but I always shake it and go, my goodness, it feels about half full still. You know, all of that leftover product, as well as some plastics are being used to make these cow patties to the right. That again, the big picture is all about substitution of coke with recycled materials or waste products in this instance. Biochar is another attempt at that. So again, it's focusing on that carbon that's put in the steel. And this is more about collaboration with a business around wood waste. So cooking it in a way so that we can turn it into a carbon that's usable in the steel manufacturing process. And I think that's about it. So in conclusion, we're very focused on that 7%. We're very proud of the recycling nature of our business and certainly the initiatives around pulling steel back out from our customers directly back into the process. And you know, we really look forward to another 100 years of manufacturing here in Newcastle. Here's hoping and lowering that 7% within our process. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Brett. If you think traditional industries, steel manufacturing has to be up there amongst them. So I don't think it can be understated the effort to change systems and processes that Molycop's gone through. Clearly listening to the market, to consumers, obviously demonstrating a huge amount of leadership and innovation, which has been justifiably recognised through multiple awards. So an amazing and inspiring story for the region and great example for us all. Our final speaker is Jess Hodge from Resourceful Living. I'd like to welcome Jess.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Jess Hodge and I founded Resourceful Living. I guess it started about 8 years ago when I got married and we went to Thailand. And the first day we went there, we went and spent the afternoon at the beach. It was beautiful. Water was clear, the sand was beautiful. Then I thought I'd be romantic and get up in the sunrise. And we went down to the beach. I couldn't see any sand. It was full of plastic. It had just washed up, and over on this little corner were excavators and diggers, and big bins that they were putting all the plastic into. So from that point, I said, we can't keep going this way. This is terrible. Why should I only come to the beach from, midday to see it beautiful when it should look like that all the time? So I founded Resourceful Living, which looks at recycling plastics. So it's all made here in New South Wales, well, actually Newcastle, just in Beresfield. And we get predominantly our plastics from a lot of councils as well as ocean cleanups at the moment, but hoping to also work with more businesses and getting more plastic that way. So a bit about the plastic problem. As most of you in this room would know, by 2050, 99% of all marine life will have ingested plastic, which means that if we're then eating the marine life, we also will be ingesting the plastic. So rather than buying a container, using the contents, and for the most part, the container is fine, we just ran out of soap and throw it out, we then reuse the container for something else. So our solution was to create a variety of products. This one here is one of it. That's actually our first ever sheet. So I've actually hung it up in our workshop so that I never forget it. And we thought we could use just black, which actually was wheelie bins that we'd sourced from a council down on the Vic, New South Wales border, who they'd said that the wheelie bins, they weren't holding waste as well. Let's get rid of them. Let's take them to landfill. So we got 4 tons of old wheelie bins, and now we're making something out of them. So one of our other things is at the moment we're doing a lot of educating with consumers on understanding how we can reuse plastic. So it has gotten a bad name, and rightly so, because we use a straw, throw it out. We take a plastic bag to put our apples in and throw that out. So rather than using single use, we get plastic and reuse it into products that will be long lasting. So one of them, for example, is we made a 1 meter skirting board. It takes 120 milk bottles, right? So on an average family, you use 55 a year. So, you don't need to get huge, big things to reuse a lot of plastic. Just a meter uses 120. So these are a few of our different products that we have started. Our biggest one is that we're trying to use 100% recycled plastic. Reason being is when you want to then update or, I guess update is the only one, or it, loses its touch, it can come back to us and we can recycle it, right? So we're not adding anything to it. We're not extending its one life. We're just reusing it and doing it with 100% plastic. So we've come up with bench tops, cupboard doors, trim, kitchen handles, office desks, tables. We're actually redoing a whole cafe in Ipswich at the moment. They've ordered 55 cafe tables. They're white with like specks of color. They kind of look like ice cream with sprinkles. And just this one cafe will be recycling 1.6 tons from 55 tables. That's it. We're also doing a mess hall that has school camps up at Currumbin. They've ordered 20 tables and 40 bench seats. Just that itself is 1.3 tons. They're just 2 businesses that they're over 2 ton now of just recycled plastic waste. And then when the tables are done, they can just give them back to us and we'll recycle again. The other thing that we're really adamant about is both those businesses were going to buy legs from us. And I guess it's not the best business way, but I was like, what's wrong with your legs? And we just thought we'd go all new. Anyway, I decided that instead of going, yeah, that'll be great, that looks awesome coming in. I said to them, let's just make the tops because they're the bit that actually needs replacing. The metal legs, they're fine. Let's reuse them. So actually that's what they're doing. They're just replacing the laminate tops that are looking really sad, and we're putting the bases on the bottom. And then the other day, I got contacted by a business in Brisbane that takes out old kitchens. And they said, we've got all these acrylic kitchens. We don't know what to do with them. Can we give them to you? And I said, oh, yeah, I guess so. They go, so we've got 400 tons and we do that every year. And I was like, maybe 5? Because we're only in quite a small factory. I mean, I've got big goals, but 400 tons wouldn't even fit in our factory size at Beresfield. And I said, so what is wrong with the kitchen? And they said, oh, nothing. For the most part, they're just being pulled out because of colour problems and they're getting into the new trends. And this is one of the plastic wastes that no one really talks about. I mean, we're quite, balloons and cutlery, yes, they're bad, but also just redesigning your living room or kitchen or bathroom. 400 tons just from Brisbane. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen 400 tons. I assume it's a lot. I've only actually bought 20 tons in one time and I thought that was a lot. So a few reasons why I believe we should be looking to buying recycled plastic more often is that it is really low maintenance. It's waterproof. It doesn't grow bacteria and termites don't like it. So there's a few really good reasons why we could use plastic. The other massive one of why we need to use it, there's so much. I mean, rather than using marble, which we're running out of, timber, which we've got to grow a lot of trees for, we've got plastic washing up on beaches, riverways, like the floods that happened in Brisbane just earlier this year. If anyone saw the footage of the Brisbane River and all that rubbish just going out to sea, I mean, it's there. It wants us to use it. So a few things, apart from our sheet press that we designed, and so that's 1.2 by 1.2 meters. It's made for giants because when we were building it, we wanted it high and now it's like up here. So that's why I'm doing the speech and the 2 engineers are at the factory. We've also looked at injection molding as well as we've created our own, I guess you could call it a 3D printer as such, but it's going to be able to take all different types of plastics. So 1 through to 6 with my idea of really wanting to look at how we could reuse baby bottles, which my husband and brother are like, oh, can we just stick with some other plastics first? But that's why I'm here. So the large scale printing we've actually designed, so it would be 2.4 meters long by 1.6 wide by my height tall, which really opens us up to being able to create a whole range of products using recycled plastic. At the moment, we've been able to do it using HDP, LDP, ABS, and PLA. But we're also looking at doing polypropylene as well as PVC. So there's also a few different sorts of products that we would be able to do it. And I did want to show you a quick little video. So this was just using PVC and we made a vase. But obviously, if you can imagine that we really want to do bigger things, right? I mean, that's great for outdoors. I put a pot plant in it. But really, I feel at the moment that my imagination is probably what's limiting because the options are just incredible. So this is our team. My husband's over there and my brother's here. They're the 2 engineers and they would probably rather die than talk in front of people. So that's why they're not here and I am. I also do a lot of the markets, which at the moment we're doing markets as more of a marketing and a more of a way of educating people of what's happening in Newcastle in terms of the circular economy. Because the best part about using the recycled plastic is all our offcuts go into our own bin and we put them straight through the process again. We grind them up, we put them into the sheet press or the injection molding machine and we make new products. So we actually never have any waste from our products as such. And we just really want to change. We really want to show people how versatile it can be and not, the soap container, oh, well, it's out of sight, out of mind. No, it's in everyone's mind and we need to find a new way to do it. We've also tried to set up that for every new employee we get, and yes, I'm gonna hire, we can actually recycle an additional 50 tons of plastic a year. So, we are looking future on how we can create new products and, be part of the Newcastle community in showing how recycled plastic can really work. So our next sort of goals are to continue to scale, get more people involved on how to reuse, recycle, and also to show people that we don't really need virgin plastic. We can actually use all the other stuff that we've already got. So it takes all of us together to make that big change. So together, we're all here this morning talking about circular economy. So let's do it. Thank you so much.
Invite the other speakers to come up to the panel, but just quickly reflecting on Jess's very inspiring presentation. What an amazing example of a living example of today's idea is tomorrow's business. I think David said that earlier, and the potential scalability of what you're doing. 400 tons, that's a lot of scale. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys boom into the future. Okay, so we have a quick panel session. I'll open with, I've got a couple of pre-prepared questions, but I'll open with one. But if everyone wants to let us know what their questions are, I'll start with just briefly from each of you. What's one thing you would like to see happen with the next, happen next within the local circular economy? One thing. I'll start with you, Tim, because I know that you'd have something front of mind.
One thing. Oh my God. Let's just pick. I really recently we had I think we call it collective impact workshop with some of the key people around the region to really try and help us understand where we should focus next in the circular economy. But what came out was constant communication was needed to help the conversation and keep everyone motivated and make sure we're checking in with each other. So we've started it in a small way, that constant communication, by having fortnightly half-hour catch-ups with the champions around the region. So I think keeping that going and then seeing where that leads us around further collaboration across the region.
That's great. Jess, one thing.
Getting people really involved to show them what it was to what it can be. In my term with using the plastic, I actually take a lot of, milk cartons and soaps and things to places, and getting that corresponding of, it was that, now it's a table. So really getting people involved to get their minds thinking of what it can become, not just, no, it is a container, it must always be a container, we can't change it from a container.
Great. David.
From my perspective, it's about involvement, but speeding up. So it's becoming more agile and moving faster.
Right. Brett.
And for me, just with a manufacturing background, I'd like to see more manufacturing capability to be able to turn those products into value-added materials. And that's why I'm so inspired by the likes of Jess, hearing her story.
Excellent. All right, we might take one from the room and then one from online, because we've got online questions as well. So one from the room, just at the back, gentleman at the back.
Mike Ritchie from MRA Consulting. Happy to use that. We export 87% of our tyres and we generate 2.3 million tonnes of plastic every year. Our tyres go over to be used as fuel in cement kilns, and we've got a great local initiative in how to use those. We've got a great local organic growth initiative in using plastic, but we generate 2.3 million tonnes of plastic. So what does the panel say about how do we rapidly scale this stuff? It's all very well to come to conferences. I'm getting old. I've been watching these for 30 years. How do we see these innovative projects grow in scale? What does government need to do to actually accelerate this beyond just innovation at the small scale?
So we're playing at the fringes. Who wants to have
Oh, look, I'll quickly, for mine, it seems I had a conversation earlier around we need sound policy that supports investment from business. So businesses aren't prepared to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in facilities to solve the problem if they're worried about not being able to pay that asset off over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So for me, we need sound policy at
Any
the highest
particular
level.
policy change you'd look for, Brett?
Very focused in the energy space. I suppose that's a very selfish view, but yeah, I think we need some clear policy to set the direction in the energy space for mine.
Excellent. Anyone else want to?
I'll add to that. The other levels of policy is the classification of what's waste and what's material.
Mhm.
So in the circular economy, we're going to move from waste to raw material. That's quite difficult within the frameworks that we have today. The other role that governments can play is using our procurement power to pull through recycled, reusable material. And we can set hurdles to that as how much we'll pull through. As I said before, Lake Macquarie alone, we spend 100 million just in capital a year. A proportion of that we can pull through with recycled material.
I think it comes a lot from filtering down from federal, state, local governments. The more people that then see products being used in a recycled manner, they'll then start to want to put it into their homes, which means then we can recycle more plastic. There's more that demand for businesses to recycle because there is the market. Finder just recently released that 40% of their consumers are looking at businesses that do more recycled and eco products. And so I think if government can show the lead in, purchasing more of those sorts of products, it means that their employees will then see them and talk to them with their friends, and it will then snowball from there.
Yeah, I'd say that from a local government perspective, we can advocate to federal and state, and that's an important thing that we can contribute to. But I also say we're looking at one of the projects that's on our list is called scenario planning, but really what that means is we've done a whole heap of material flow analysis in the region. We know where the materials are. We know what quantities are relatively well. The data's not perfect, but by doing some more scenario planning, we can go, okay, we know the quantum of the material in our region, and then we can start engaging with the broader community, the business community, and go, okay, maybe government can try and get the right people around the table to start exploring solutions to that. And that's where we can go, okay, we go to the cell, we go, cell, we've got this amount of material, we've got all the right people, we've had the conversation, we think this might be the solution. Can you guys go and test it, make sure this works? Or the solution might already be out there and Jess can do it with her mega factory that she's going to build next to Mollycop. I don't know, but something like that. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any more questions in the room? I don't know if we've got any questions online. Yes, just here.
Hi, Cassandra from Port Stephens Council. Really fascinating and interesting ways on reusing materials. Just one thing is obviously these processes are quite costly and take quite a bit of effort. And with that is using non-reusable and, processes that produce carbon. I know you talked about your current contract with wind farms, but is there anything in place there to reduce carbon footprints when creating these recycled and circular economy products?
Who wants to have a go?
For us, one of our biggest thing is electricity. The sheet press is the same as running 32 microwaves at the same time. I've never tried that, but that's what I'm apparently told that it runs like. So for us, we're looking at the moment putting solar on the top of our building to try and offset that electricity. But other than that, we're looking at other sorts of things that we can do in terms of, in future, only getting waste really local to limit its traffic all around. And we also want to limit just our general, employee waste as well.
If I'll just talk on Lake Macquarie's perspective, we run our own solar system. So we put a lot of our own, we generate a lot of our own electricity. I think we're the second largest electricity generator in Lake Macquarie as a council. But also in our procurement processes, one of the things that we look for in the hurdles in selecting a supplier is how they source their own energy. So that then gives the leg up to people who are trying to be green.
So looking up the supply chain. Yeah.
I think that point made. So we are looking from an energy perspective around cogen. So we generate a hell of a lot of heat as part of the process. So we'd like to harness that heat to reuse it in the process. The typical issue for us is that's a simple $75 million investment. So you think, oh, it's tens of millions. But you can do simple things. So on that procurement side of things, we're also, it's not only just about the cost of supply these days. So if we're looking at a refractory brick, rather than buying the cheapest one from the furthest place away, we're happy to pay a few more bucks to be able to get something from a more local proximity. So just pay that little bit extra to touch on the transport piece. We're very conscious of the footprint of shipping stuff around.
I think we had a question over here just before. Yep. Hi. Ivan.
Yeah, Boris Novak from HunterNet. I guess I was curious around competitiveness, and a lot of these circular economy things, some of them get lost in terms of, I wonder how much is left on the table in terms of competitiveness, and also, I guess, a general acumen around carbon accounting, because as we go from circular, I mean, linear, where we've had general currency, now we look at carbon accounting as well. I'm curious to know, probably from Brett, what has all these initiatives done for Mollycott's competitiveness, and probably more so also for Jess. And I know Lake Mac's done a lot in that planet price foray, but probably for Jess as well. Do you look at carbon accounting? Or I mean, at some point in your business model, is that captured, or is it passed on to the customers, the consumers?
Yeah, thanks, Boris. So I'll kick off just from the Mollycott piece. So we're the only Australian manufacturer of the products that we make. So we are competing heavily against two other nations, first being China, the second being India. So we've got other competitors around the globe, but they're our two heavy hitters by far. So you could probably appreciate on a delivered cost perspective, we're not always the cheapest. So for us, competitive advantage when we're dealing with a Newcrest, a Newmont, large mining organisations that like to put forward in a board report that they put a price on carbon, that is very much a direction that we're heading in, saying, hey, you can buy cheaper. Just like the similar example I said for ourselves, it's not only outward looking, we're looking inward as well. But that's our competitive advantage, to be able to say, that Chinese supply has twice the carbon footprint of the same grinding media that's delivered. So that's certainly an avenue that we're pursuing heavily.
So for us, when we have an order, based on how much plastic they recycle, we actually let them know how much electricity they've saved from, rather than using virgin plastic, as well as oil, and how many cubic tons of landfill they've taken away. In terms of price, we've tried to be really on par with, say, your laminates and your cheaper side of wood things, so that it is more affordable. It's not a choice between being eco-friendly and sustainable to having some money in your bank account. So rather than, I don't think there's many people doing what I'm doing, but I want to be more on that affordable side, that I want it to be out there in people's homes and people to be proud of having something that used to be, a wheelie bin as their now dining table.
Do we have any more questions in the room? Yes, gentleman here. Make this the last question. And
David, you touched very briefly on it, bead boil by the way, embedding circular economy principles into purchasing. That's where the rubber will really hit the road locally. Can you give a bit of a forward statement on that?
Sure, good question, Bede. We all, every business has purchasing power. So we live in a world of suppliers and customers. If we want to make changes, the more pressure that we put on our suppliers to supply materials that are circular from circular processes and materials that we can reuse again, we will accelerate the transition in the economy. The question on carbon capture was a good one. A lot of our businesses today are measured on efficiency, not resilience. And over time, I think we'll see that change, that we start to measure our businesses and our bottom lines. In government, we use a quadruple bottom line, not a singular bottom line that you see in a profit-making business. So the more, back to Bede's question, the more we use our purchasing power to create the demand and continue to shore up that demand for circular businesses, circular ideas, things that we can reuse and recycle, that will make the economy grow. That will help drive the transition of jobs in the economy. And that's what our Living Lab's about. It's about testing those ideas out and incubating new roles, new jobs in the economy, new businesses that will transition away from the ones that we have today.
I just wanted to quickly add that I don't want to give Edge Environment another plug, but apologies, Jess, but we're just working on a regional circular economy procurement project. And that's about creating methodologies and tools to help all of our local government in the entire Hunter region and Central Coast, help them be able to choose more circular products and give them ways to do that. And the idea behind that is to create, like I think you're getting at, Bede, that demand pull in the market. It's going to be very powerful. And creating those tools that any of our local governments can use as easily as possible to keep them keep as much information and data for them to help make good decisions in that space. So that'll be rolling out over the next 6 months. We'll keep testing that with local government. We've only just received the draft from Jess. So we're working through that, but that'll be an exciting project. And what we're hoping to do is once local government's tested it and we've started to buy more products in that space, then we can just share it out because it's funded through the state government, which we're very grateful for. And that can be shared out across state government, but it could also be Hunter Water, it could be any of our big providers in the region. So that'll be exciting, something to look out for over the next six months.
Definitely. Can I ask everyone to thank our speakers for their time and for their insights today? Now, don't forget that HunterNet has a workshop after this focusing on their bin trim manufacturing pilot with a talk from Mike Ritchie, Managing Director of MRA Consulting. I'll now hand over briefly to Tim to wrap up and let you know how you can get involved.
Finishing up now, guys. Just wanted to, I think we're going to flick up something on the screen. Thanks, Eloise. While I'm thanking Eloise, I'd like to also thank Eloise and Carly for all their hard work today. It's been a fantastic little event and I really appreciate everyone here taking time out to come and have a chat about circular economy. We also really thank our other speakers on the panel for giving up their time this morning too. So thank you for that. And Go Circular for handling all of our online needs today and keeping those guys online informed about what's happening. So very quickly, I'll just finish up on this and then you can grab something else to eat and mingle and chat, which is also really important. We are gradually working up that website, Hunter Circular, and improving it. And one of the key things that it can do at the moment is that you can get on there and sign up to our database. If you're a circular economy business or other organisation, you can sign yourself up on there and then we'll load you up into the database. And it's based on Ellen MacArthur's sort of classification of different providers of circular economy. And also you can also sign up to the newsletter on the website and then you'll be kept informed about what's going on. We also have a LinkedIn group, which we'd love you to participate in. And we've got some really great regular posters on there. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out today. Really appreciate everyone turning out and looking forward to hanging out with HunterNet next. Thanks very much.